I'd like to welcome you all to Rose and Shingle Creek. We are so pleased that you're able to come during these very difficult times. You may have noticed, if you walked around a little bit, that the resort is eerily quiet. Sadly, like so many other hotels in Central Florida. It is now my honor to introduce Governor Ron DeSantis.
Well, thanks, Harris, for hosting us, and yeah, thank you. Look forward to coming back next time when you have those great events. We obviously in Florida, we've been moving ahead with reopening. We've continued to do that and really expand as much as we could in a very smart, safe, step-by-step approach. The the numbers that we're seeing in terms of the virus, just to put in perspective, the last time, I think we're about 232 total Floridians are on ventilators statewide. We haven't had that few since March. If you look at today's test results, we got almost 80,000 test results in, and about 500 were new positive cases for Floridians, which is about 0.64%. And I think that particularly outside of Southeast Florida, you've typically seen as new cases have popped up and anything more than just a smattering, typically linked to long-term care facilities and to prisons. And those are obviously important, and we've had a huge effort with our long-term care facilities. We're going to continue that. But those are discrete issues that need to be addressed. I think we've seen other states when they've done draconian restrictions against the general population but left the nursing homes to fend for themselves, or even sent sick patients into the nursing homes. It's caused huge outbreaks and big problems. The Vice President and I were able to deliver some PPP to a nursing home today. We have over 4,000 long-term care facilities, and in Florida, we've got about 3,500 of them who have not had a single infection documented this whole time, which is really something special. We've obviously worked very hard at our policy with that, and are going to continue to do it going forward. But Orange County, if you look, today's test results, 0.2% came back positive. Yesterday was 1.2%. I don't know that you could have a community anywhere in the country in terms of the millions of people that live in this metro area, in terms of the number of international travelers and travelers from all over the country and world that come to Central Florida, and then look at how they've performed in terms of the virus. Obviously, there's been cases, but the hospitalization has been very low. Fatality, death rate, fortunately, very low. So we really view this area as a bright spot and as a way to really help launch our return as we look to come back going forward. We have a lot of key people involved with some key industries, which is great. We also have Secretary Jean Scalia, Department of Labor, who's doing a great job. And what I really, and obviously thanks to the Vice President for coming. The last time I did a roundtable with him in Florida was March 15th at Port Everglades with the cruise ship industry. And we were trying to figure out, okay, if you guys are going to be running these ships, are you going to continue to have people getting sick and all this? And eventually, they, I think, realized that they had to change some course. But now we're in a much better spot, and I think we have an ability to come back. I would note, as I was kind of passing through, and I know we have some great attractions here. Some of the attractions that are really good are water parks. Well, CDC just put out something, I think yesterday, talking about that they haven't seen evidence that this virus is transmissible in things like pools and in water. And so we already know outdoors is a better environment in terms of minimizing risk. Now we get the information about the water. I think there's going to be some people going down that slide at Universal and the Disney parks and some of these other ones, hopefully very soon. But I think that when we did our most recent policies, we said any theme park can submit a request to reopen, get endorsement from your key local official. So here would be the mayor of Orange County. Other parts it may be a little different. Provide, kind of your safety plan. But we welcome that, and we think that we can move forward in a way that is safe. And I think that the parks did a really good job in the lead up to this, because we had issues. There were a lot of people in town, and they did close, but they stayed open that last weekend, and I think really took safety to the next level, and so they should be commended for that. So we want to be able to have a pathway to get some of these good things back going. I think we do. Now on the restaurants, we're encouraging the outdoor dining and then the 50%. I think that's going well. The 25 was tough for people, especially if you weren't open. Now you have an opportunity to at least get some folks back in, and I think the public has responded very well with how they've conducted themselves, understanding that we want to make sure people are safe. So that's something I think is very, very important to Florida. And then the hospitality in terms of people coming down. That's just something that I think if we show that we're doing well as a state, we show we continue to do well health, if we show well, people will, I think, generally have more confidence. People in Florida, I think, have responded very positively to these steps so far, so we want to continue on that journey. But we stand really ready, willing, and able to help. I know someone had mentioned there's like this event, that event. Like, look, if there's anything that you guys want to do that's not authorized under our set of structures now, this is a work in progress. I mean, I want to work with people to be able to get to yes. And that's what I said when the hairdressers came. Well, actually, the mayor here in Orange County came to me and said, we want to get the barbers and hairdressers. And I was like, well, some of my doctors didn't necessarily have the way forward on that. And I was like, but you know what? My job's to get to yes. Show me what you're going to do. Now you go into these barber shops and hair salons, it's like an operating room. It's so clean. So they're really doing all these things. And so I think that's the spirit that we see in Florida and throughout America, of people wanting to get back to business, but obviously wanting to do it in a way that's safe, not only because that's the right thing to do, but that's also, I think, what the customers want to see. They want to feel safe when they're going to these places. So we've got a lot to discuss. It's my honor to be able to introduce the Vice President, who's really been a good friend of the state of Florida. We have a pretty exciting event later this month in Central Florida with the launch, and I know maybe you're going to be there. I think the big guy's going to be there, so I'll certainly be there. We're looking forward to doing that. He's been a great advocate for the space industry, both in terms of NASA, but also the private sector. That's been a huge driver here in the state of Florida. And they've continued to do good things even through this pandemic, and going to continue to do it going forward. So thanks for your support for the state of Florida, and thanks for all that you guys did through this. Anytime we needed anything, the task force and you guys were there for folks like me here in these states, and so we very much appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much, Governor. It is good to be with you, and good to be back in Florida as this state is really leading the way to open up America again. And I want to thank you for your leadership. Harris, thank you for your hospitality. For your long-standing leadership in this community, in this state. We appreciate you welcoming so many men and women who represent the bulwark of businesses here in Central Florida. I want to thank you all for being with us today. I also know that you tapped your Lieutenant Governor to lead the Executive Committee of Florida's Reopen Task Force, and I'm partial to number twos, Governor, so I want to give people a chance to thank Lieutenant Governor Jeanette Nunez, who is with us today. Doing a great job. We've had an inspiring day in Florida. President Trump wanted me to convey his great respect and appreciation to the people of Florida and to all the businesses so well represented here because of the choices that you have made. And since we were last together in the middle of March, Governor, the truth is we've slowed the spread. We flattened the curve. We saved lives. Now, all of us mourn with those who mourn. We grieve for the loss of more than 90,000 of our countrymen, including several thousand men and women here in Florida. But it is undeniable because of the sacrifices that American families made in implementing the guidelines that were issued by the Coronavirus Task Force in Washington, the willingness of families to be able to adhere to your guidance, Governor, here in Florida, really to implement the kind of social distancing which is all about putting the health of others first. We're getting there. And we are where we are today at a time when now in all 50 states have begun the process of reopening their economies and beginning the American comeback. But it's a testament to the American people. And I want to say to the people of Florida, thank you. Thank you for the sacrifices that you've made. Most especially, as we said today, Governor, visiting one of your wonderful nursing home facilities here in Florida. I want to especially say thank you for caring so much for the most vulnerable among us. I mean, to think, you said there's 4,000 nursing homes roughly here.
Long-term care.
And long-term care facilities here in the state of Florida, and fully 3,500 had no coronavirus cases at all. That is a tribute to an extraordinary group of caregivers, healthcare workers that I think deserve a big round of applause for caring for them. But it's also a tribute to folks that have been willing to not go see mom and dad, not go see grandma and grandpa, to really be willing to put those principles into practice. Because we learned early on, after President Trump tapped me to lead the White House Coronavirus Task Force, that seniors with serious underlying conditions were clearly among those most at risk for serious health outcomes. And people responded. And Governor, your efforts here, your decisive efforts here to implement and enforce new raised federal guidelines for nursing homes and long-term care facilities, your decision to restrict access to nursing homes, and a whole range of policies, including the surveillance testing that you've deployed, has made a tremendous difference. And I want to commend you among the citizens of your state for the work that you've done. But in addition to the American people, in addition to our incredible healthcare workers, President Trump and I feel just as strongly that we have to say thank you to American businesses, especially those in the tourism and hospitality business across this country, and particularly here in the great state of Florida. The decisions that you made to put the health of your employees, to put the health of people who come from all over the world to visit this great city and these incredible attractions was commendable. And I know it was unprecedented. But your willingness to adhere to federal guidance and make those choices, I think, represented the very best of what makes American business special. And so I want to invite a round of applause for the leadership represented at this table and all of the businesses that were willing to put the health of your employees, the health of the people of Florida, and America first. Thank you very much. And it was at great cost. I was told, Governor, I'm sure you might have touted it, that in 2019, Visit Florida actually estimated that there was an all-time record. 131.4 million visitors traveled to Florida to enjoy your beaches, to enjoy the sunshine, to enjoy all the great attractions that are represented here. I can tell you not too many years went by that the Pences didn't load the minivan and drive down from Indiana. And I'll tell you, your West Coast, Sanibel Island, Fort Myers almost feel like a second home to our little family. And that's why, Governor, for all the challenges that we've been through, I know the people of Florida and the President and I appreciate the steps that you are taking to safely and responsibly reopen Florida to the people of this state and the people of this country. In a very real sense, Florida is leading the way among a handful of states that step forward. And Governor, I want to appreciate the fact, having been surrounded by epidemiologists in my current assignment for the last 3 months, that you did it all on the basis of data. Thank you for that. Thank you for understanding that the ability to reopen Florida could be implemented not just on a statewide basis, but also on a county-by-county basis. And I know that your administration has looked at those areas that still have challenges and dealt with them differently than other areas of Florida where we've seen significant declines or or a very limited number of coronavirus cases to begin with. And I'm here really to hear from these great businesses about how we continue to move forward. Anxious to hear about your plans. I brought the Secretary of Labor with me, who among his responsibilities oversees OSHA, and I want to assure you that OSHA, the Labor Department, the CDC, which recently published new guidance for the American people and detailed guidance that's available now at the CDC website, we're going to be a full partner with your businesses to give you and to give Governor DeSantis, your administration, guidance for how we reopen these great attractions to the American people. But let me also say, I want to thank you through the course of this ordeal with what so many of you have done. Somebody handed me a sheet on the way here. I'm told Walt Disney World donated 35,000 N95 masks to the Florida Division of Emergency Management, as well as 700,000 pounds of food to Florida food banks. I think that's worth a round of applause. Thank you, Disney. Over the past 2 months, I'm also told that SeaWorld Parks and Resorts collectively donated more than 41,000 pounds of food to food banks and charities across America, and thank you for that generosity. Just truly remarkable. And Universal Orlando donated more than 15,000 ponchos to the city of Orlando, to local fire departments as critical PPE for first responders, and also donated 30,000 pounds of food to Central Florida food pantries. So let's hear it for Universal Orlando as well. Thank you so much. And because of your generosity, families were able to see their way through this challenging time. But today is really about opening back up. I'm glad the governor mentioned it's great to be in Florida, and I'm going to be back here in a week because not too far from here, for the first time in almost 10 years, we're going to send American astronauts back to space on American rocket from Kennedy Space Center. And I know how important the space enterprise is here in the history of Florida, but I want to tell you, President Trump and I know that the history of space that will be written is going to be greater still, and Florida will play, and the Space Coast will play a key role in that. With that, I'd like to invite the Secretary of Labor to maybe make a few thoughts, and then Governor, I'd just love to hear from as many of the leaders here as time permits, because I want to tell you that I think there's no one in America that wants to open up our economy more than President Donald Trump, and for all the sacrifices the American people have made, for all the sacrifices that your great businesses have made, we're anxious now. We're anxious now as cases are declining, not only here in Florida, but all across the country, as positivity rates among the expanded testing is declining across the country. Hospitalizations are declining, and looking at 7-day averages, most importantly, fatalities are declining across the country. Now our focus is on two missions. Number one is to continue to make sure that we provide our healthcare workers, we provide guidance to states across the country to continue to confront and hasten the day that we put the coronavirus in the past. But our other mission now, working closely with your governor, is to open up America again. And with that, I just again want to thank your governor. I want to thank your lieutenant governor. I want to thank all the people of Florida for what you've done and have already begun to do to bring Florida and to help bring America back. So thank you very much. And with that, I'd welcome some remarks, Governor, from Secretary Eugene Scalia, our Secretary of Labor.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Pleasure to be with all of you. And Governor, so good to be here with you. I've known the governor since he first ran for Congress, and I was introduced to him and was so impressed by his intellect, his commitment, and his dedication and service to the nation. And it's just a treat to be here with you and to see the whole nation now recognizing what a great leader we have here. Well, the health emergency that we've been confronting, in which the Vice President has done such an extraordinary job together with the President addressing, has had a very impact we know on American workers and on the economy, and particularly in this sector of the economy. We put out a very difficult jobs report a couple weeks ago, but more than a third of the 20.5 million Americans that we said had gone off payroll in April were from this industry, from leisure and hospitality. So we appreciate how difficult it has been for you, your businesses, and for your workers. Fortunately, the President, Vice President, and actually Congress too, acted with extraordinary speed to take measures to address some of the impact this was having back in March. We had 3 major pieces of legislation in March. Never before had there been mandatory paid leave for private sector American workers, but that was enacted, signed by the President with 100% reimbursement to those small businesses by the Treasury Department. We got the Paycheck Protection Program, which was loans to small businesses to help keep them afloat, but particularly importantly, to help keep those workers connected to the business so that we could get those businesses back up quickly as we reopened. We estimate that about 50 million workers were able to be kept on payroll through that program. And also, in the CARES Act, the President signed an unprecedented unemployment compensation benefit. We'd never had such a significant federally funded unemployment supplement. It was the right thing to do in this context. $600 a week. Again, unprecedented, but a very swift measure to help the American people. Now, as the Vice President said, we're pivoting. We're focused on reopening. For us at the Labor Department, that means even as we help ensure that people who are entitled to unemployment benefits get them, we're focused as well on ensuring that as we reopen and jobs become available, that people who can go back to work do, because it's obviously always our preference to have them back at work. As the Vice President said, we're focused too on a safe reopening. And OSHA, part of the Labor Department, was the component within our department first engaged with the coronavirus, providing guidance to employers and workers on how to go about their jobs safely. We'll continue to do that. And as concerns arise, we'll continue to respond to and make sure that workplaces are safe. I've been so impressed with measures that I see businesses across the country taking to assure their customers and their workers of that safety. So I look forward to this discussion. I'm pleased to be here, but more importantly to you, there are tens of millions of Americans who would be pleased to be here. And I think we can have confidence that we've got a President, Vice President, and Governor who want to help make that happen, who want to reopen as promptly, safely as we can. And we also have a President and Vice President who understand the policies that gave us that extraordinary economy that we were enjoying until early March and know how to get us back there. So thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, Mr. Secretary. And Governor, do you have a cue, or you want to get started?
I think what we do, well, one, let me, I think our Chief Financial Officer, Jimmy Petronas, I think, is that you? Yeah. So Jimmy's here. He's in the cabinet in Florida, so thank you for your service. I thought maybe just start off with, we have three representatives from 3 different theme parks.
Great.
Obviously, when you think Orlando, you think the theme parks. As I think obviously you guys know, put out last week, theme parks can submit plans for reopening approved by the key local official, and then we'll entertain them in the state. Obviously, I want to get to yes, so I think if you work with your local, you're going to be in pretty good shape. So why don't we just start with maybe John Sprouse from Universal, then we'll go around Disney and then SeaWorld and say, what do you guys, I know you guys have both done some of the outdoor stuff, or Disney's doing that today, but in terms of seeing some of these parks, what are you looking at? What would the safety look like, and what are other things we should be thinking about?
Sure. Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Mr. Vice President, for being here and giving us this opportunity. We did begin the process with respect to Universal last week. We were able to open part of our City Walk complex, which is our dining and entertainment complex, and we hope we are able to prove that it can be done in a very safe, responsible manner.
How's it going?
It's going extremely well. We've adopted a number of procedures in terms of safety, in terms of social distancing, and in terms of sanitation. We've asked our guests to participate in that by doing certain things, and we've had almost no negative pushback from anyone, whether it be our team members or our guests. They understand it, they're cooperating, and they're actually welcoming the opportunity to be able to get out and to get out, have a meal, walk around the lagoon, and start to get back to normal. And what we're hoping is we're going to be able to take those learnings and all the work that we've been doing over the last couple of months, almost from the time we were closed. At some point, we knew we'd be able to reopen, and how would that look differently as we learn more and as we get more scientific evidence about what we can do.
John, how did you do that? The governor and I just grabbed a burger at Beth's Burgers. It's pretty good, by the way. But the governor's authorized a 50% occupancy, so you've implemented that. Are there other unique things that you're doing at City Walk that you're seeing are effective?
I think not so much unique as putting a number of layers. As we've talked to medical professionals, they've talked about the safety issues as sort of being a number of layers of Swiss cheese. And if you look at any particular slice of Swiss cheese, there are holes. But if we can layer in enough of those slices, we can protect people as much as possible. So we've implemented temperature checks both for our team members and for guests. We are currently having all our team members and our guests wear masks. We've gone through with each and every venue and set up the social distancing markings so that people don't have to figure it out. We've tried to figure it out for them.
Right.
We have one thing that we have found that has worked really well is we brought additional management staff back that weren't specific to any venue. And we have them just acting as ambassadors throughout the area. So they're helping people understand, here are, please put your mask on. Here are what we're trying to do. Here's where you can go to wash your hands. Here's where these, the antiseptic hand sanitizers are. We've done things like entering and exiting every restaurant or shop. You go in one way and out the other, and there's hand sanitizer at the front end and the back end. And we're going to try to apply that with respect to our rides as well. We'll reduce capacity so that we can maintain social distancing. And there are some attractions we're going to have to change. We have interactive play areas where children can play. We probably won't open those up initially because it's just, we're not able to control it, and we want to be able to control it so everyone can feel safe. Because I think that's probably the most important part as we open up our industry, both here and the rest of the country. If people feel that they're safe, if people feel that we're doing it responsibly, they're going to come.
Are you open to, is Universal City Walk open to anyone at this point, or are you limiting it geographically or to Floridians?
City Walk is open to anyone.
Just anyone right now? Okay. Really, great insights. And thanks, again, I was speaking directly to these great attraction and resort operators when I said, just thanks for rolling your sleeves up and doing the hard thing.
Thank you.
I hope you tell your whole team how much we appreciate them, because there was, I think, Governor, when you and I talked, early on, we recognized that people come to Florida from all over the world. And the people of Florida and these great businesses recognized that potential vulnerability of having people come here, congregate, and then go back across the country. And we couldn't be more grateful. It was a great service.
We're grateful to you for your support. We're grateful to the governor. The governor has been terrific through this entire process. The communication and the expectations have been great, and we just want to do our part. We think we can open safely and responsibly throughout our industry and get Florida back where it needs to be.
I think that, the one thing that I was interested in at the very beginning of this, but I think it's been really proven, is this is a virus that just doesn't transmit as well outdoors, in outdoor open air environments. It likes the enclosed spaces. That's why you see like the meat packing plants have major outbreaks, prisons, unfortunately long-term care facilities. That's why the #1 source of outbreaks is usually the home, because you're in close, sustained contact with people. And if you look at Florida's tourism base, a lot of this is linked towards outdoor activity. Beach, boating, fishing, even your parks. And I know you have a mix of things, but a lot of times, you're walking outside, getting on a ride or whatever. And so, I think use that to our advantage. I was really glad to see the CDC come out with the water guidance about that not being a source of transmission. I think Blizzard Beach and these things, to me, is probably going to be pretty low risk in 90-degree weather if people are in water. So that's a good thing, and people can see that and hopefully can appreciate the science. So with Disney...
Well, and one of the things that I want to commend to your attention, I'm sure your teams already have it, was the Department of Homeland Security, we think, completed the first work on the impact of humidity and sunlight on the coronavirus. And the half-life on this virus drops to infinitesimally small with humidity and daylight. And so I just encourage you to factor that into your policies. I know that the governor and his team will be taking that into account.
And I would say throughout this whole thing, we always said golf, all this stuff, just make the basic accommodations. Not had an outbreak that we've been able to determine from a golf, not having an outbreak related to beach, not an outbreak related to, I mean, I'm sure maybe you've had transmission somewhere, but I mean, it's not something, you would think that if this was something, you would see it a lot, and we haven't seen it a lot. But like the Vice President with this heat, you know, people are saying, don't touch the flag stick and go, look, be safe. But like, honestly, if I touch it and I have the virus and you're in the group behind me, 10 minutes later, the sun's going to nuke that. I mean, like, it's going to be totally gone. So, but I think that was a great study that they did. So we have, you know, Disney, we've got George Kalogridis from Disney. So what are you guys, I know that Disney did Shanghai already. How's that going? And then what are you guys thinking about what you need to do to be back in Central Florida?
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you, Governor and Mr. Vice President. Shanghai opened on May 11th and actually has had a great response. I think you probably heard in the media that the tickets sold out in the first few minutes for the first day. A lot of what happens there, of course, is
Did you limit at all the number of people? Did you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, 20% on the first week, and the maximum will be 30%. So, you know, we need to get more over time, but from a safety perspective, from a guest acceptance perspective, we had a great launch, and so those are the learnings for us that we'll certainly consider when we think about opening here. And as you said, today we opened Disney Springs, partial opening, and the rest will open next week. And I'm sure tonight we'll have discussions about water parks, so thank you for the opportunity. That's great news, though, that CDC made those changes. So, and one thing that I would also like to just mention, the Secretary mentioned the programs for employees. Our business won't all come back at once. This is going to take time, and these programs for the employees that have come from the government are really helpful, and we really appreciate it. So I want to thank you for that. And the speed at which that happened was important, and the message really is that we're going to need that for a while because everybody's not going to come back in 1 week. It's going to take time. So thank you for that.
George, thank you. I just, again, want to commend Disney. I remember the meeting in the cabinet room at the White House, and am I right in remembering that Disney had never closed more than a day in the history of this company?
We closed on 9/11, and we closed 2 days for a hurricane, and that's it. So, yes,
remarkable.
It's unprecedented.
Well, it was a tremendously admirable decision that you made, and I hope you'll convey. Tell me about the assistance. So, Paycheck Protection. We also have made lending facilities available for larger companies. I'd love to ask this too of everybody. What's been most helpful up to this point? I was on Capitol Hill yesterday, Governor. We're in early discussions about the possibility of another phase of support, but what's been most helpful?
I think for our company, really the unemployment, the stimulus check, and then the unemployment. For our company, again, we're a much larger corporation. The other programs are very important to other companies, so I don't want to, mislead you. But certainly for us, because we have such a huge workforce, and most of that workforce is impacted by this, so they're important for us.
I got it.
Of course,
George,
there was the $1,200 stimulus check as well for each one of those workers.
Right. Great.
We just finished up maybe the theme parks, Mark Swanson, SeaWorld.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, we were, I think I was in SeaWorld a couple months ago. I mean, maybe probably come into mid-February, got to look around a little bit, see what's going on. So what are you guys thinking about?
Yeah, well, thank you again for you and the Vice President being here. We represent SeaWorld and in Busch Gardens down in Tampa. And I'll echo what my colleague said. One thing I like about the industry, there's not a monopoly on safety. We all come together very well, and I think you're going to see us employ very similar safety protocols. I think we're at SeaWorld, and I'm sure the others, we're very confident in our ability to execute on this. We are even more an outdoor park than probably anybody.
I was about to say
Yeah.
that.
So we're looking forward. I know your announcement on Friday that submit the plans and we want to get to yes, that was a real shot in the arm for us. And so thank you for that. And we look forward to getting in front of our local authorities and then eventually to you. And we're excited to move forward.
Mark, what's your timing on that? I know the governor's opened the door. You all are putting it together.
Yeah, we've been working.
These guys have started to open up a little bit.
Yeah, so I think from kind of the time we get the approval, it's a couple weeks, 2, 3, 4 weeks to ramp up, get our employees back and get everybody in there. So we're going to try to get in front of, get our things moving as quickly as possible and then get the approval and move forward. But we would probably be obviously then sometime in June.
Yeah, sometime in June,
Yeah,
before the end of June.
yep, yep.
Well, all of what you're doing is going to be very exciting to an awful lot of people around the country, I promise you, and even more kids. So, very well.
Yeah, if we can get the approval, and the data keeps moving in the right direction, we'll be ready.
What's, in terms of the federal assistance, direct financing to families, paycheck protection, lending facilities that have been available, have you?
Yeah, I would echo, I think the payroll tax credit early on was helpful for our company. The stimulus checks are good. The additional unemployment benefits are certainly welcome. We're, the Main Street lending program, I think for us, with our existing credit facility may not work out. Doesn't look like it's going to work out, and that's something we may come back with just some comments. There's some constraints in that program just with your existing debt facility and having capacity and things like that. We've already accessed the public markets. If there was a way we could still access the Main Street lending, that's something we would probably certainly look at. But our read of that is that may not work out just for us. I'm sure it'll work out for a lot of others, though. So.
Okay, great, got it.
So,
Thank you, and thanks for what SeaWorld did.
Yeah.
And Busch Gardens. Really, incredibly hard choices. But it was very inspiring to me, Governor, when the president brought everybody together in the cabinet room in the tourism and hospitality industry, and everybody said yes. Everybody said, we'll do it. Everybody put safety first. And in your cases, it impacted families and communities all over the country. So thank you. And thank your whole team.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
So theme park's important. Maybe get an update from some of the restaurants about how that's going. So Carol Dover does the Restaurant and Lodging Association, so she'll probably want to say something about the lodging when we get to that. But the restaurants, how are things going? How did it work with? We actually tried to do, I think I told the VP, when everyone was shutting down the restaurants and bars, we closed bars. I wanted to do 50% in restaurants because I thought that is distance. That's low risk if you do right. But what was happening, I had people telling me that the restaurant across the street was doing 100%. I was like, you know what? So then we did it. But then we obviously wanted them to get back. So we were a little slow out of the gate, but doing the outdoor in 25. Now we have outdoor in 50. And so how's that going?
Well, first I want to thank you, Mr. Vice President and Governor, for allowing me the opportunity to talk to you today about hotels and restaurants in Florida. Tourism is the economic engine of our state. We have about 1.5 million hospitality employees, but unfortunately just under 1 million of them have been laid off. But thanks to our great governor, who was leading, I believe, the country in trying to get us opened back up with the 50%.
That's true.
It has begun to really change the dynamics. I think at 25%, we knew it would be hard, but at 50%, we're seeing a rebound, and hopefully will continue. I want to say thank you very much.
How much was that blunted, Carol? We just, as I said, we just grabbed some lunch today here. Beth, who runs 4 great burger places, told us that she, through delivery and through pickup,
Right.
that she'd still been able to maintain about 20% revenue. So
Right.
did you see that at all? But because Secretary Scalia and I just heard at the White House with restaurant operators from around the country that, did I hear right, like 1 in 4 of the job losses in America today are people that work in restaurants alone, let alone hotels and hospitality.
Yes.
how much was the delivery, pickup, how much did that sustain?
Huge. We were incredibly grateful when our governor said that we could continue with takeout, curbside delivery. I've never seen so much creativity. Grocerants started, and we've seen all kinds of, this governor's been very effective in getting local mayors to allow the streets to open so they can roll
We
right
also
here in Winter
did
Park.
alcohol delivery.
I was going to say that.
We
but
authorized that so people would actually, the restaurants could deliver a meal and could deliver some alcohol as well.
It's been incredibly helpful. I want to say,
And you told me that your emergency management team,
oh,
Yeah, so at Tallahassee restaurants, with emergency, because they have everyone working, so they cater in.
Yes.
And I was like, you got these local restaurants, so some of them really were able to
their
do well.
lifeline.
Yeah.
so that made a difference.
Yes,
That
sir.
preserved some
Oh,
of
yes,
the
sir.
revenue.
It absolutely did. And what really made the difference is what you've hit on with the PPP and Phase 3.
Okay.
If I may, though, without sounding at all ungrateful, because we are so appreciative of what you've done, there are a few things that we hope in Phase 4 that will be addressed. One, of course, is liability protection and hold harmless agreement. That would be something I know that we're looking and hopeful for. Extending the loan coverage from 8 weeks to 24 weeks. I'm sure these are things that you've heard before. The loan ratio of 75-25 has been incredibly challenging for all of our members because they don't have any staff, or most of them didn't have a lot of staff. So we're hoping that either that goes away or 50-50, but preferably it would go away, and extending that June 30 hire date to December 31st would be incredibly helpful. There's a lot of other issues, but I just want to say thank you. And I want to end with, first of all, COVID hit this so
Can I just
Yes,
add
sir.
in there, because I'm sure this is just as relevant,
Yes, sir.
some of these great attractions and hotel and resort operators is the liability issue.
Yes, sir.
I will tell you that we're in discussions about that right now, and our objective is to continue to create the kind of products at the federal level, CDC, OSHA, that will give businesses and other enterprises the ability to operate confidently. But I want to assure you that we're very aware of that. We want what I think Senator McConnell raised the issue early on. The President has our team looking at it, but we understand the challenge that faces. But the American people want to get back to business, but we want businesses to have the kind of guidance that you can operate confidently and know that you'll have the kind of liability protection if you conform with those labor standards, if you conform with those operating standards.
Thank you. So the last thought I have is that, COVID obviously hit all of us, severe and sudden, like out of nowhere. But we have, the Amendment 2 will be on the ballot here in Florida to raise our minimum wage to $15 an hour. And there will be nothing more catastrophic to an industry that's already been hit as hard as we've been hit to have to be faced with an increase in the minimum wage. So I know that is something that we would love any assistance and help, but we're going to continue to try to fight for our industry and hope that we can get our employees back to work, but not be hit with that in November. And thank you very much for the opportunity today, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you. Great insights. And give everybody in the whole association our very best. We just heard so many great stories at the White House this week. My first job was as a dishwasher at Gene's Cafeteria in Columbus, Indiana. And, our restaurants, our hotels, these are where our communities happen. And so tell everybody we appreciate all the hard work, sacrifices that they've made. It's made a difference. Governor?
Gene Lee is CEO of Darden Restaurant, so they have a lot of great brands, including the Capitol Grill, and they're headquartered right here in Central Florida.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you, Mr. Vice President, for allowing us to be here today.
Thank you, Gene.
I'm not going to reiterate all the safety precautions that we're taking as our peers are taking. I would just add a few qualitative statements. Number one, our employees feel safe doing what they're doing. They believe in our processes and procedures. We are getting no pushback from our team members. They want to come back to work. They feel as though the environment is safe with the policy, procedures and practices we put in place. Our guests feel comfortable in our restaurants. They don't understand, if anything, they push back on the 50% capacity issues. They don't understand why more people can't come in, the place is wide open, But they feel safe in our environment because of the practices and procedures that we have put in. I also would say in closed spaces, in restaurants like ours, we transfer more air than any other environment because of our hoods. Because of the hoods that we use over our kitchen equipment, we're transferring the air inside our restaurants at a much more frequent pace than what you're seeing in a normal enclosed environment, which we believe helps make the indoor space even more safe.
Right.
One comment on PPP and those types of programs. Well, the best thing in the programs for us was the employee retention tax credit. That enabled me to pay 150,000 people for 3 weeks that weren't working. And that is something that has got a cap to it, that we'd like to see that cap removed, and we would like to see you relook at that in phase 4 to help us keep people that we don't have an opportunity for today, that we may be able to keep them connected to our company and bring them back as our business continues to grow in the future.
Great,
Thank you.
great. Very helpful, very helpful. I appreciate the insights. And just thanks for what you've done. It's a great company, great restaurants.
You guys have, Capitol Grill has some patio seating too, right? Some of them do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about your other brands?
Yeah, Yard House has some
Yeah.
big patio seating. So we're, especially in Florida, Bahama Breeze has huge patios. So those are, we've got a restaurant on the water down in Tampa with 300 patio seats that's doing fantastic since we've opened it back up.
Yeah, but the air, so CDC did some study, I think it was a restaurant in China, family came from Wuhan to a different part of China, and they tried to say in the direction of the AC, but if you look at who got infected, it really didn't. There were people on the opposite end who got it, and then there were people right at the table who didn't, and so I think it was just trying to say enclosed environment, but I think that's a good point about if you have that does make a big difference in terms of lowering the risk. I think we got another, I think Patty Nuzzo this is when a restaurant can't do certain things, obviously that has downstream impacts, and so I think she can talk to some of those in terms of how that's affected her part of the industry.
Yeah, thanks, Patty.
Yeah, so thank you for having me here today. So we have a family-owned restaurant equipment business, and we sell to restaurants of every size and shape. And we have, we've seen a decrease of about 65% of our sales. And one of the things that was very helpful for us was the PPP loan. We were able to get it swiftly. We appreciate the fact that the government stepped up and created a program.
How many employees do you have, Patty?
We have about 30 right now.
Okay.
And we were able to keep everybody employed. We are
Great.
fortunate that we do business with a local community bank, and they got it funded right away. We put our staff to work. They've been researching products that we never thought we would have to know about. Our buyers have learned about hand sanitizer and masks and, you name it, to-go containers. And as the restaurant industry has kind of evolved, from the takeout to the 25% to the 50%, the needs of our customers have changed. And so it's allowed us to keep everybody on staff and be ready for that. That whether it was in the beginning with ordering takeout containers, whether it's now with masks and barriers and things like that. So,
That's great.
so I do appreciate you having me here today. We are a member of NFIB, and I appreciate you giving small business a voice at the table.
Well, you
And
better
we just
believe
want
it.
to see the customers come back to the restaurants. And
Are you selling a lot of those I've seen different restaurants now just kind of put up a partition.
great question.
Is that?
that seems to be, people have started ordering them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as
I
each
saw the
phase
casinos
evolves,
have done it
it's kind of
too.
changed.
They have the casinos, I think in Biloxi or somewhere, so there's a partition in front of between the slots, and then even the card tables, there's all that, so that may be a wave of the future, we'll see.
Well, a lot of our manufacturers have started constructing plexiglass barriers. They have things that are on wheels. They have things that go between the tables, you know, I mean, on the table.
Well, let me, I can ask you or ask Jean or Carol. Do you expect some of these changes to remain? Are you going to, as you're retrofitting some of the restaurant environments, will you keep some of them over the long haul?
No, I think anything that we're going to do will be very temporary.
Okay.
I think that what we're wrestling with is the expense to implement that, and then to think maybe 3, 6, 8 weeks, we're going to take it back down.
Right.
I'm not sure I can get a return on that in that investment. And so we've got plans to be able to retrofit some of our restaurants to create some social distancing. But we're hesitant to make that investment today.
Right.
Because we have to be committed that we're going to operate that way for 6 months.
Yeah.
But it's not how we would design a restaurant. You wouldn't feel great in the restaurant long-term with the barriers that we have to build.
Yeah, just curious.
If you did 100%, what would be the spacing in between? I mean, I'm just...
4 feet. First of all, in a restaurant, you never get to 100%.
Yeah.
On my best day, I get to 60% of occupancy because of the inefficiency of seating.
Right.
Unless it's a bar business, you've always got 2s at 4 tops, so on and so forth. So 60 is a great day for me when I'm at 60% occupancy, ex-bar. And so you'd have like 4 feet. And what I think is interesting, and this is why when we talked earlier in March, when you're in a restaurant, your back is always to anybody you don't know. You come in with your 4 people, you sit around a table, you're all facing in, but away from you,
Right.
where everybody else is sitting, there's no transmission going back and forth. So as we think about it and we look at our environments, we believe that as we sit today, we could sit every table and we'd still feel really good about the safety of the environment for the consumer and for the team member.
Well, and Patty, thank you. Great insights again, Jean.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. The president will actually be in Michigan tomorrow, and American manufacturing has stepped all the way up, and businesses large and small around the country. So, done a great job. So, thank you. Great.
Why don't we talk about some of the hotels and lodging? So
Yeah,
maybe
please.
Mr. Rosen can kind of start off. I think he had mentioned some stuff to us backstage, but you obviously play host to major events. I know you've done major political events. I know you do weddings. I know you do business conferences, and then obviously host a lot of tourists coming in for the park. So what's the path back in terms of safety? If there were no government restriction, just said you be safe, how would you handle it?
Spent a couple of years with Uncle Sam and learned a lot of lessons. One of them that has guided me for much of my business career is KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. I don't think the answer is very complicated. We want everybody back to work, right? As quickly as possible, right? How do we do that? Large, small, medium-sized hotels, restaurants, attractions. How do we do that? You make an announcement that our goal is to get everyone back to work quickly. Really? Yes. 2 provisions. Want to open your restaurant, your attraction, hotel? Screen every customer, every client, every guest that comes into your facility. Number 2, every single day, screen every one of your associates, your employees, to make sure they're healthy. Wow. Is it that simple? Yeah. You have a clean environment And the folks that are coming in to your facility have been screened. What about restrictions? What about them? What about them? Perfect example of restrictions. Universal opens, City Walk. Screening, no masks. Disney will open. Screening and masks. That's their choice. That's their choice. Right now, we screen in the one hotel that we have open, out of the 8, we screen all of our associates every day. I've been screened twice today. And every guest that walks in is screened. That ain't complicated. It will get people back to work so quickly, and the private sector will once again feel as though they're in command of their own lives. It seems overly simplistic, doesn't it? But it'll work. And if we don't get people back to work quickly, it's all over. It's all over. Orlando is suffering. Orlando is struggling. The hospitality industry is in deep depression. But there's hope. I spoke with the governor and the vice president a little bit. They were so kind. They let me speak. They let me babble for a while. I said the convention center, the second largest in the United States of America, cannot have a gathering, to use the language that's being used, of more than 10 people. What? We can accommodate 200,000. Sorry. Just lost 30,000 AAU volleyball players. Our gatherings are more than 10 people. So, Governor, my hope and my prayer is that as we move into phase 2, the convention center will be a convention center, not an arena or a stadium, so we can get back to business. My hope and my prayer is that restrictions will be, for all intents and purposes, eliminated. And let the owners of the establishments do what they believe is appropriate. If they are sloppy and people enter the establishment and they're concerned, they will not patronize that facility. Isn't that what free enterprise is all about? Right? So I apologize. I'm the least politically correct human being on earth. I apologize. I respect the two of you so much. I hope I haven't behaved too badly. But that's the Rosen dream. Listen, we worked for Disney for a while, but things didn't work out. I bought a little motel in 1974 for $20,000 with all the money I had in the world. And today, we have 7,000 rooms, and we don't have a penny of debt. That's the only reason I'm able to keep doing what I'm doing now, which is paying salaries to my associates who are not working. How much longer can I do it? Only God knows. So thank you for this opportunity. I hope I haven't embarrassed myself. I apologize.
Thank you, Harris.
You have to say that like you really mean it, though.
Yeah. Thank you, Harris. Thanks for the stirring words. And thanks for the generosity of your employees, and thank you for your rugged individualism. We'll get this opened up.
Thank you, sir. God bless.
We'll get this opened up. We'll get Orlando and Florida and America working again.
Yeah.
So God bless you.
We'll get it done. All right, Danny Gaekwad is a big hotel guy out of Ocala, and like to get him to say a few words about what he's looking at in terms of the hotels.
Thank you for the great opportunity, and thank you, Vice President, and also President and my governor, for opening up America. I will start with that. And I'll give my little story, just like Harry Rosen's story. I come as an immigrant. My whole family works in a business. My wife is here. My 2 sons are here. My manager is here, because it does bother us. And I represent here more than 20,000 members of Asian American Hotel Owners Association, which are 99.9% descent from India, you know, and we all came with the American dream. I thought I have seen a 9/11. Then I thought I seen the worst recession in my lifetime. But I have never seen this, and I was never prepared for this, and I don't know what to do with this. But I'm going to give you some idea that what is happening in my associate world, which I am in very much in touch. Governor, you know very well, I brought hundreds of people at the governor's house for the Diwali function. So I have few hotels, and one of the hotel example I'll give you is a Holiday Inn, and which is a typical hotel. My occupancy in 2019, in April, was 75%. And this is in middle of nowhere. I'm not Orlando, I'm not Miami, I'm in Ocala. This year, 2020, April, sir, my occupancy is 12%. I am so grateful that you gave us PPP money, but I have no mathematical knowledge how to use it, because there is no guest in my room. How do I get my employees to serve them? My employees are ready, but whom would they serve? So that is our biggest dilemma. If I give you by number-wise, like a dollar-wise, it may make you more sense, Governor. In 2019, April, I did $340,000 in revenue. In 2020, I did $38,000. My monthly installment with the bank is $107,000. So sad. And how do I cope up? I don't know. I'm using whatever resources, and I'll do it. And this is the same story. If you take from Boston, you go to Miami, from Miami to LA, most of the exits, anywhere you will see Asian American hotel owner will receive you. And I can guarantee you, our association, which I represent today here, will echo the same thing what I'm saying. 50% of any hotel in entire United States is owned by Asian American Hotel Owners Association. What Harry Rosen said is 100% truth, like I'm telling you, sir. And I'm going to tell you another thing. I'm watching TV, and I'm watching this pundits and gurus and talking about liquidity in the hospitality industry. Sir, Mr. Vice President, I'm going to give only one thing and one thing from here. If there is no guest, there is no dollar. If there is no dollar, don't even think about liquidity. Do we have a liquidity? Absolutely not. Are we managing somehow to go somewhere and scrap it? Yes. So who is helping us? After 2008 and 2014, the hotel industry was devastated with the housing industry. And that was the fault we found as a bank, because they're giving a liberal loan. So when that happened, we learned our lesson, sir, and we went from 15, we went to CMBS loan. Please make a note of this name. This is the big, bad wolf. You have no idea what devastation CMBS will hack on us. 25% of any hotel in United States is funded by CMBS. President Trump, Vice President yourself, my governor, you can only save us by putting some legislation and put that big bad wolf in the cage. If you won't put it in a cage, he will finish us. And it's a very complicated loan. We never understood. It's a 200 pages. And only good part was that we don't give guarantee, but they can take my hotel. So now if that they act. So what do, Governor? I sent a letter from the lawyer 2 months back that, sir, please talk to me. You know, my other banks are talking, my credit union is talking. After spending $10,000 on one hotel only, I made a mistake in my life. Out of all my hotel, one CMBS, they will not communicate with me. They told me, no, we have no reason to communicate with you. They have right to come in my hotel any day they want. Me and my family is here today. We are only worried about that one loan in a craziest way. Banks are very good. President Trump, Vice President yourself, you guys have given a clear instruction to the banks and a credit union and financial. This is the only big bad wolf is out there, and this can destroy the families without fail. And I can go on forever, but I don't want to take everybody's time.
I got it.
But that's what I want to tell you.
Thank you, Dave.
And PPP loan, I'll echo everybody else very clearly. PPP loan, we need to extend, sir. There's no way I can spend that money by June. I have 12 and 15% occupancy. And if you permit...
We're looking at it. We're looking at it. I didn't tell you that, Carol, but we're looking at it. The president said that this week.
Yeah, and a restaurant, sir. My restaurant is very famous. I win 10-time Golden Spoon Award. It's not like a mom and pop. Last year, Mother's Day, I did more than $20,000. This year, I did $2,500. So when everybody's talking about opening up America, so thank you very much, because we were choked. I can explain you choking like we were just dying. You let us breathe 25%, so we are breathing 25%. Governor is kind enough to open up 50%, we will shortly start breathing 50%. If you open 75%, sir, we will breathe 75%. And God bless that day when America, as Harry Rosen says, when they open with the common sense, let us manage with our common sense. We are not monster. We're not going to sell you coronavirus. We're selling you food. We're giving you healthy rooms. So that's my request. But this administration I command between 9/11 and 2008 and now this crisis, this is the fastest, quickest administration has ever acted in my career of 60 years of my life. I have never seen any president taken this much unprecedented decision, popular or dispopular, and send money home. Yes, now that money is home, but please give us some more rope so we can just survive. So you can understand if it's 100% is far away, then please give us a time for far away for 100%.
I got it. Loud and clear. And thanks for being so, I saw a lot of people nodding around it. I want you to know, I came here to listen.
Yes.
And I hope a lot of these people in the media are listening carefully.
But
Because the governor's taken some criticism for the steps that he's taken to lead on opening up Florida again. Other governors are taking steps. I'm happy to report that all 50 states, governors have begun to open up their economies. But I appreciate all of you sharing the hardship that this has placed, not just on your enterprises, but on your employees, on your families. I want you to know this president, this businessman turned president gets it. His vice president gets it. And we're going to continue to work our hearts out to safely reopen because we believe in the American people. We believe in the collective common sense and good judgment of the people of this country to do the right thing. You've all proven that throughout this pandemic, and we're confident as we open, you'll continue to prove it. And thank you for your kind words about President Trump's leadership. I will tell you, it's...
we love your leadership. We love Trump.
Yeah.
We like bold step taken, not the executives sit on a desk and worry about where the air is moving. My governor was there when he kept my state open and kept us alive, truthfully, because we were wondering, really, are we going to get choked up, or are we going to die, or what? Yeah. He kept us alive. Yeah. Whatever breath is coming, we are fine, and we are welcoming it. And imagine, this small hotel owner is a whole family is working.
Right, I got it.
It's not that only employee, we are all working.
I grew up in a family business.
So you know, sir.
I know what you're talking about, and I'm taking you on the road.
Yeah.
I love this guy.
We've got I got a couple more people. I got
Yeah.
Roger Dow, U.S. Travel Association. So do you want to
Yeah,
weigh
Roger,
in on
and then
some
Frank,
of the
and then
travel and
we'll,
lodging that I know is?
This has been terrifically helpful.
Well, thank you, Governor. Is my day job, I'm in D.C. I live in Florida, so I commute. In fact, it's easier to commute from Tampa to D.C. than it is to Potomac to downtown, to say the truth. But I just want to put perspective, especially for the, Secretary Scalia knows this, but we're such a labor-intensive industry, 15.8 million employees, 1 in 10 are in the travel industry. 8.1 of those million are unemployed. And when you look at it, that's 38% of all the workers in America unemployed from the travel and restaurant industry. But it gets worse. Harris used the word depression. The Great Depression, the worst year was 1932, was 25.5%. The travel industry right now is at 51%. We're at twice the depression, so we're in a depression. He nailed it. We're going to lose $520 billion this year, 45% of all our revenue for the industry. It's 9 times worse than 9/11, as my colleague over there said. We talked about flattening. We need to flatten the recovery. We need to get back much more quickly. If we can get back quickly, if we can even shrink the recovery from normal 2 years down to a year, it'll be to the U.S. economy $300 billion. It'll be 2 million jobs. The quicker we can get this thing back. We put together, we got the whole industry together. Everyone in the industry, airlines, hotels, restaurants, all came together with one set of protocols and guidelines that followed the White House guidelines, but all 38 sectors got behind one single set to give more confidence to people to get back. We need, you mentioned it, Mr. Vice President, we absolutely need limited short-term protection from COVID liability. These people can't go back to work unless they can not be sued, and you hit the nail on the head. That's so important. We need relief. We've got to expand. PPP was good. They unfortunately left out the CVBs, the convention bureaus. It was a mistake. They're trying to fix it, but all the convention bureaus in the United States are getting zip, no money, and we've got to get them fixed, and it's part of number 4. And the most important thing, I think, is to get this thing back. They used to say, as goes GM, goes America. I say right now, as goes the travel industry, goes America. If the travel industry comes back, we're the first to go. We'll be the first to bring everything back, and we can bring the entire economy because we're the front door of economic development. And some things that I loved hearing the President say at the restaurant meeting the other day, to explore America. What a great opportunity. No Americans are going to Italy. No Americans are going to Spain. They're going to come to Florida. They're going to stay in America, and we ought to make it easy for them to do that. We talked to Mnuchin about a travel tax credit. It would be brilliant, very easy to do, and you spend your money here in Orlando, you take a tax credit for it, go to a restaurant, take a tax credit, very simple to do. Restore the meal and employee deduction. Isn't it silly when you go to a basketball game here, you can deduct the ticket, you can't deduct the hot dog. Something's wrong with that. Just a silly thing, but restore the tax deduction to get that done. And I say,
well, you know, the President's very enthusiastic about that.
Yes.
I know, very much so.
Among the pro-growth things,
Yeah.
and we talk about the restaurant industry, Gene, the President really believes that restoring the ability to deduct meal expenses, and to a large extent entertainment expenses, would be a way of catalyzing.
Exactly.
Catalyzing and getting people back into restaurants, getting people back into entertainment around the country. And I will also tell you the President's very enthusiastic about pursuing a payroll tax.
Right.
Payroll tax cut.
Very simple.
We've created relief on the business side, but I think it puts 7.6% take-home pay back in the pockets of every working American.
Well, last time I was in D.C., we sat with you and the President and Secretary of Commerce talking about how this industry needed the money. A week later, the CARES Act was in place, so I thank you for that. And the Governor, I'll close by thanking you. You're an example of how a state should be run. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we've got Frank Sherman hasn't had a chance. So Frank, why don't you weigh in? And
Can I just say thank you, Roger, for those great comments? Really.
Well, they're true.
Yeah,
Isn't it easy
very
when it's
insightful.
added value, it makes it true?
I think shrinking the recovery, I will tell you, President believes it, I believe it. One of our chief economic advisors, who's been a little more conservative in his predictions about recovery, I think he He said publicly this week that seeing some of the early activity in states that are reopening, he's actually believing it's going to be quicker. And I've heard several people on this panel say, you know, you were saying your employees are glad to be back, your customers are glad to be back. I mean, you told me Disney Shanghai, which is a faraway place, but you said they sold out in a day. And you all have opened parts of your attractions already, and you're already seeing people showing up and enjoying them. I think the American people are, look, everybody wants to be safe. I think the character of our nation shone forth.
Yep.
Because one of the truths of the coronavirus is that we continue to understand, don't we, Governor, about the number of people that are asymptomatic, people that literally have had the coronavirus and never knew they had it. I mean, younger, healthy people can have no symptoms. Other people, the majority of people have maybe flu-like symptoms, but then vulnerable people with immunodeficiency, obviously seniors with serious underlying health conditions, were particularly vulnerable. And for that reason, the American people said, well, we're all gonna take these steps to protect our neighbors, our family, and our friends, our employees, our customers. And it was a real tribute. But I really do believe, and I'll tell you, the president really believes, as we continue to open up responsibly, we give the people of this country the tools to do so in a common sense way. We believe you're going to see this economy come back.
You heard it. It's going to come back faster than ever because everyone in this room is willing to make it happen.
Now, we believe the third quarter, the president, I think we believe his third quarter is a transition. But we actually believe we're going to, once we get through a tough second quarter, I'd love to see, I see a lot of heads nodding from a lot of major business leaders here, so I'm glad to see agreement in that.
I mean, just to we want, obviously, the whole country back, but I think different states may pursue this in different ways, and I think Florida has an opportunity to really, be one of the leading engines here, because I think that we've shown that when you're dealing with a virus like this and you really focus on the most vulnerable and really do a lot, things like long-term care facilities, you compare us to these states, Northeast, Midwest, much lower death rate, even though we have the most vulnerable population. That's because we've really put a lot of emphasis on protecting those vulnerable folks. So we're going to continue to be doing that. But I think we also realize that, fortunately, if you're under 50 and healthy, this is something that a lot of times you could be asymptomatic. It's not something that is leading, fortunately, to a lot of deaths for people who don't have underlying conditions. And actually, the CDC's report today, hospitalizations for under 18 are substantially less for COVID at this time in the season compared to influenza. So as a parent, I mean, that's obviously something I love to see too. You guys as parks, bringing the kids, kids are at lower risk. That's a great thing, and I think the data has borne that out. So, but we really want to be a leader in this nationally. I said last week, professional sports, come to Florida if they won't let you play. It was funny, some of the governors had to go out and say, well, you can play in our states, because they realize, but it is, we think we have a lot of opportunities, to do things that, will continue to prioritize safety, but give people opportunity to get back on their feet. And so we want that to happen here. All right, well, Frank.
And this, I think, Frank, you get the last word.
All right. Thank you for that. And I do want to thank you and Mr. Rosen for hosting this. And I'm saying my prayers, and I do feel we're blessed to have the right team in the White House that has just rolled up their sleeves and made decisions and got it done, and we thank you. My company is Transportation Management Services. We do large events throughout the United States. We're the logistics behind when you have 150 hotels and you need to run them all to the convention center. We figure out how the media and how the attendee gets around. We also have do World Cup and some Olympics and some political conventions. So last year we carried a little over 6 million people. This year we haven't quite broke 1 million yet, so you can see the impact. But one thing, Mr. Vice President, that I'd like to bring up is that we couldn't do our job without the motor coach industry. And we believe that the tourism industry cannot come back without the bus operators and the motor coach industry coming back. I just want to tell you that the motor coach industry is made up of 3,000 companies, mostly family businesses that you can appreciate. The industry carries 600 million passengers and drives about $8 billion in direct impact to Florida's economy, and $8 billion to Florida and $100 billion to the U.S. economy. There's over 2 million jobs related to the industry, directly and indirectly. We're being told that because most of the income that a bus company makes is in the first part of the year. And so this year they've been completely wiped out, and they need that income to get all the way through the year, and that income is now gone. The American Bus Association tells us that by October, 75% of those businesses will be gone, will be shut down. They cannot make it unless they get a $10 billion grant. So if I can, while these bus companies are my vendors, I feel like rather than talking about my convention space business, I felt like I needed to speak for my vendors and the bus community and the motor coaches. And anything that I could be told to be able to help bring this crisis about the motor coach industry, whoever I can talk to, I would like to talk to them because it's going to be it's important. They're the link to all the parks here. They're the links to the to bringing commuters to work in the cities. Our company does hurricane evacuations for the states. They're the link that helps us evacuate the critical need, the people that can't get out of harm's way. The motor coach industry comes in and they help us evacuate. So that's what I wanted to say, and I appreciate your time.
Frank, thank you. Thank you. Duly noted, and we'll take it back. 3,000 businesses.
Yes.
That operate bus and motor coach companies. And you said most of those are small businesses, family-owned businesses.
Yep. Some of them are in the audience today, and
great.
They,
people that move America around.
That's right.
Yeah.
They
do a great job.
They just had a big rally in D.C. last week where they had 800 buses come drive around for a couple hours because that's, they were trying to call attention to themselves. They're allowed to honk their horns from 12 noon to 12:02. And they stopped. I didn't think they would stop, but they did. So they really would appreciate any help that
you got it.
Get them.
Well, you're a great champion for them, and I'll carry that back as we think about going forward. But opening up America is how we fill up buses too,
yes.
Right? And all of you that work in that industry, it's a great industry, a safe operation, incredible record. Thank you for what you've done, and thank you for your sacrifices. We'll go to work, okay?
Thank you, sir.
Great. Governor?
Well, Mr. Vice President, thank you for coming back down to Florida, and we'll see you again with the launch later this month, which we're really excited about. And thank you to the President for being very proactive anytime we needed anything, being there, and then also the members of the task force. Anytime that we had issues, they were all very responsive, from Dr. Birx, the Surgeon General, you name it. They were working 24 hours a day. You were working 24 hours a day. We were working really hard here 7 days a week, but you guys had the whole country, so believe me, no one appreciates the hard work more than me, having been through it with you all on just one slice of America here. But I think going forward, we have so much potential. I remember when we went into mitigation and you guys did the 15 days, obviously we knew that there was going to be changes in the economy. And then I got the unemployment report on my desk, which was really a legacy from the prior to the coronavirus. 2.8% unemployment in the state of Florida at that time. I mean, we were clicking on all cylinders. I think all those fundamentals post-coronavirus can return. And I think it's incumbent upon us to work as hard as we can to get folks back to work and to get our businesses functioning again. And I really want to see which theme park opens the first water park? Who's going to take the first move? My daughter's only 3. She may be a little too young, but she does want to go to the wave pool at some point. So I can't promise you we'll be there yet, but maybe in a couple years. So, but thank you for doing it. Thanks to Harris Rosen for hosting us. I would say to anyone else out in the crowd and business leaders, if there are other things that can be done better in terms of, restaurant feedback, some of these other things, let us know. Because my view is you guys all have an incentive to want to do everything as safe as possible, because as Harris Rosen said, if you don't do it, then people go somewhere else. So if there's creative ways you're doing it, I don't think that a state or a federal can simply issue guidelines that will apply sensibly across a big, diverse state like this. We've tried to approach it more locally, bottom up from the beginning, but we want to continue to do that. That's why I asked the parks to submit the plans. I'm not going to dictate the plans. You guys know your operations better than I ever will. So any industry, I think we want to take the same posture, submit things, and obviously we're going to continue to be moving forward on this, but we have a responsibility to make it work and to get to yes on all this stuff. So my commitment to you is that I'm committed to doing it, and we're going to continue to put safety first, but we've got to get people back in business, and I think we've started that, and I think we've had some success, but we need to keep building off the momentum.
Thank you, Governor. Great comment. Well, Governor DeSantis, thank you so much for bringing this forum together. Thank you for your leadership, and it's good to be with you and Lieutenant Governor Nunes. Thank you so much for your hard work. I want to express my appreciation to Harris, not just for the hospitality, but for the candor. It was refreshing, and I want you to know that we're going to carry back that common sense into this conversation and around the country. And all the great business leaders that are gathered here and have joined us around or are looking on, just thank you.
Yes, thank you.
First and foremost, thank you for what you've done. I mean, I know every American's heart grieves for the more than 90,000 families that have lost loved ones. President Trump often says one is too many. But the truth is, because of what you've done, we undoubtedly spared more families the heartache of loss. And I would say, Governor, that's particularly true for a destination state like Florida. These great companies followed the president's leadership and your actions here in Florida and took unprecedented action. And it's commendable. And I want to assure you that you have the gratitude of your president, this vice president, all of us on the task force, but I know the gratitude of tens of millions of Americans who cherish your enterprises, who look forward to the day that they can be back, but they understand that you made decisions that put their health and well-being first. And what I would just say to each one of you is I appreciate the determination and the tenacity that I've heard in every one of your voices. And I want to assure you that man I serve next to every day shares it and then some. We are absolutely determined in a safe and responsible way to reopen America. And we are working every day, not just with your governor, but with governors all across the country to make sure that the supplies are there, that the testing capacity continues to scale. And I just want to encourage everyone with the news that we're getting there. We really are. And despite the fact that it seems like much of the commentary in the media is negative, the reality is that while we're increasing testing all across the country, cases are going down. It's a testament to what the American people have done. It's a testament to what American businesses have done. It's a testament to your leadership here in the state, and I would say the leadership of our president and all of the agencies of the federal government that have been working on your behalf since the first domestic case of coronavirus was ever here. I mean, I hope you all understand the president suspended travel from China before there was a single case of community transmission in the United States. He stood up the White House Coronavirus Task Force before there was a single case of community transmission of coronavirus in the United States. And I have to tell you, ever since he tapped me to lead the White House Coronavirus Task Force, I have been so inspired by our team at HHS, at CDC, at FEMA, our health experts who've worked seamlessly with your governor and governors around the country. But it's brought us to this moment where we can begin to reopen. And as I said at the beginning, I'll say at the close, I think every American should take credit for the progress that we have made and be confident that we'll continue to give guidance, continue to work closely with each one of you. And I'm more confident than ever that sooner than most people think, we're going to open up America again and put America back to work. Thank you very much. God bless you.